twin-engine, four-bladed, multi-mission attack helicopter.
The AH-64 Apache is highly mobile, lethal, and can destroy armor, personnel, and material targets in obscure battlefield conditions.
With weapons like aerial rockets, 30mm automatic guns, and point-target weapons, the AH-64 has become one of the most advanced aerial fighting vehicles in the world.
The U.S. Army will spend billions of dollars over the next decade to upgrade its iconic Apache helicopters to the latest and most likely, last variant, the AH-64E Guardian. Already battle-tested in Afghanistan, the Apache Guardian reflects the latest trends in U.S. military doctrine, namely improved response and loiter time, interoperability with drones, and the capability to engage maritime targets. The Apache stands amongst a number of weapons systems such as the M1 Abrams tank and the F-15E Strike Eagle that entered service in the 1980s and proved their mettle in the 1991 Gulf War. Apaches fired the first shots of that conflict, took out Iraqi low-band radars with Hellfire missiles, clearing the way for the initial strikes by F-117 stealth fighters. A total of 277 Apaches were deployed in the conflict, claiming the destruction of 278 Iraqi tanks as well as numerous other targets, a high rate of return by the standards of most weapons systems. Only one Apache was lost in combat. Attack helicopters are responsive and relatively precise means of unleashing heavy firepower where it's needed most, but unlike main battle tanks or jet fighters, even an armored helicopter is vulnerable to low-tech machine guns, anti-aircraft cannons, and even rocket-propelled grenades, let alone surface-to-air missiles. In later conflicts in Afghanistan and Iraq, AH-64s continued to prove their deadly effectiveness, but couldn't avoid losses from ground fire, including during an infamous raid against the Iraqi Medina division that a strike group of 31 Apaches badly shot up by heavy machine guns and anti-aircraft cannons. The Guardian Apache was approved in 2012, 15 years after the preceding AH-64D Longbow upgrade, which mounted an APG-78 radar above the rotor that allowed the Apache to detect and fire at ground targets outside of the line of sight. However, this increased the Apache's unloaded weight by 15%, to 11,800 pounds, without increasing the engine power to compensate. The new AH-64E addresses this by installing a trifecta of new systems: more powerful T700 GE701D turboshaft engines, a modern face gear transmission system, and new composite rotor blades, increasing the AH-64E's speed from 140 to 180 miles per hour. The Guardian Apache can thus arrive on the battlefield faster and loiter overhead for longer, 57% longer, according to one field commander. New hydraulic shock strut landing gear also improved the Guardian's crash resistance. Another upgrade is a man-on-man team, MUMT, drone controller data link enabling the Guardian's co-pilot to remotely control and receive data from an orbiting Army MQ-1C Grey Eagle drone. This allows the Apache crew to observe the battlefield before they've arrived and even to hover behind cover, waiting for a target to be identified by drone so it can make a devastating pop-up attack. The Apache crew can even assume manual control of the drones to paint targets with a laser or launch the drone's Hellfire missiles. The latest Lot 6 batch of Guardians includes updated fire control systems that can identify and target ships at sea, presumably to rain Hellfire missiles upon them. Clearly, this is aimed at making the Apache more relevant to any possible conflict in the Pacific as well as possible skirmishes in the Persian Gulf. Although plans to make a naval version of the Apache died off long ago, U.S. Army Apache units have been practicing deploying on ships at sea anyway. British Apaches have already operated successfully from the HMS Ocean amphibious assault ship during the 2011 intervention in Libya. In addition to upgrades to computer processors and software, there are also a number of useful new gizmos. A new ground fire acquisition system, installed on the tip of the wing stub, scans the battlefield with cameras for muzzle flashes from small arms, cannons, and rocket-propelled grenades, and automatically slows the Apache around to deliver return fire with its 30mm cannon. Link 16 data links in later Guardian production lots will allow improved data sharing and networking with friendly forces. The computer software has also been upgraded with a cognitive decision aiding system intended to ease the workload posed by routine piloting tasks.